It's time for the 32081 Scoreboard Show. Let's recap the latest weekly scores and highlights from around the county.
And welcome to this edition of the 32081 Scoreboard Show. As always, I'm the Todd, and joining me from the Ponte Vedra Recorder, you know him, you love him, Anthony Richards. How you doing, Anthony?
Good to be back on, Todd. Happy to talk about another exciting week of high school football.
So where do you want to start? You started north of A1A over at Fletcher, watching Fletcher and Nice, and then you also had Ponte Vedra and Middleburg over in Ponte Vedra. Which one do you want to start with?
We can start with Nice.
Okay, I'll give you the choice. Nice it is, okay?
We'll start with Nice, yeah.
All right, since you were there for the first quarter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, so let's talk about the obvious here. How surprised were you to see how aggressive Nice came out of the gate with the onside kick?
I was, surprised. I think, obviously the kick was supposed to be a surprise, but it definitely worked because I was totally surprised, especially with, kind of knowing that, Fletcher's star quarterback, Marcellus Tate, is not going to go. So they've got a backup quarterback in. So they're most likely going to be a little more conservative. I just didn't think they had to do that. It's not like when the Jags are playing the Chiefs and you just feel like we've got to steal possessions and outscore this team. I just didn't feel like that was necessarily the case there. But, hey, I mean, Drafts is, that's what makes him also a great coach, is that kind of that unpredictability at times,
That's what I was going to say. So when I say I was surprised in a way, but I'm not going to say I was totally surprised because that is what makes him some of the big plays. That's him. That's his style, and he does it. So let's talk about that. So Marcellus was out of this game, still with the high ankle sprain, I think it is, and saw him on the sideline stuff. Fletcher came out of this game. It seemed to me they had a very clear plan, and that was to keep our offense off the field. Now, a lot of people are saying, yeah, Todd, isn't that the point of every game is to keep the other offense off? Not necessarily in this case, because they ran the ball, obviously not having the arm of Marcellus Tate, and their backup quarterback did good on completing some passes, but they really controlled the line of scrimmage and therefore was allowed to really run out the clock and keep our offense on the side.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even from the start, they got the opening kickoff, and they pretty much, half the first quarter, was by before Nice even got to touch the ball. So, I mean, from the start, that's obviously their game plan, and a lot of it was sticking to the ground, really using kind of their bigger backs and their big line and kind of just pounding right at you, using that ground game, taking some off the plate of the young backup quarterback, and just trying to, basically just do a relatively conservative game plan, win the time of possession, and then at the end of the day, they I'm sure hoped that they would be up. That resulted in them being up on the scoreboard at the end of the day.
So let's talk about, he always seems to come up, let's talk about Elijah Luckett and the big plays that happen. I mean, the first kickoff that Nice receives, he runs it back for a 94-yard touchdown from the 6. The other thing, too, is that not only did he have some big plays, but we got to see Maddox Spencer in a quarterback on a little loop-de-loop kind of trick play where the handoff was from Bryce Frick to Andrew Moses to Spencer, and he hits Fletcher Reston in the back of the end zone. It seemed to me like some of the big plays were there, some of that razzle-dazzle that we're used to seeing from Drafts, but it just seemed like time was not on our side.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would say that same thing. It seems like Fletcher's game plan worked the way they wanted. Nice obviously came back and made it fought till the very end. But but at the end of the day, you look up and there's no more time left on the clock. You just feel like they truly did shorten the game. They won the time of possession battle, and that pretty much resulted in the victory for them at the end.
And the other thing, too, real quick, before we get to Nice's defense, on the offensive side, I understand the passing was working effectively. Tyler Gazanfari had a very nice 23-yard reception. Braden Felder was in on the mix. So I was a little shocked, though, when you looked at the rushing attempts for 8. And, we were just talking, a week ago about how the balance seemed to be getting there. What were your feelings behind the air attack and 8 rushing attempts during the game?
Yeah, I know. I was kind of surprised by that too, because obviously that's not, not so much balance as it is kind of leaning one way. Obviously, kind of pass heavy. I'm not sure if Drafts maybe saw something that he thought maybe he could exploit the Fletcher secondary with passing attempts, like quick passes, and kind of use those as part of the running game. Again, just still trying to kind of figure out the best way with Cam Smith out. And sometimes like wide receiver screens essentially are runs, extended runs, get your playmakers out to the perimeter. So I mean, there might have been that, but definitely I was surprised, especially when the offense, the defense would get some turnovers, the offense got the ball, and it seemed to be 3-and-out punt. They were never really able to, kind of take some of that time of possession back by getting some first downs, improving your field position, kind of the field position battle, which, some runs might have helped to get some yards, take some stress off of the offense a little bit. Again, I'm sure Draft saw something that he thought he could take advantage of, but they just, they just weren't able to execute and hit those passes on that amount of pass plays that they called.
Now, the one downside of that is when looking at it and you look at the numbers and you see that, like, Noah Hodge had a great game with 11 tackles. He also had a sack. And you have Jack Rorks, and there was 7, and then Cade Papineau with 8 plus his interception. But you got to think that with that many offensive stalls, it kind of got your defense, I would think, again, I'm not a coach, but it kind of made the defense probably a little bit more tired when you're going into the fourth. And this game wasn't out of hand. I mean, it ended up being 27-21, so it wasn't like it was an out-of-hand game. Do you think that contributed to anything? And the other thing, too, real quick before you mention that, because I like you to talk about this, too, is that when I looked at these numbers, Creel Carter and Jacob Curry were not really on as high as they had been in the past. And I'm also wondering if maybe Fletcher had a little bit of a game plan to keep that away, because Creel had, I think, an interception every game coming into this game, and they kind of try to stay away from him.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that the offense wasn't able to really kind of just maintain some possessions, especially early on in the game. In like the first half, the defense, Fletcher was driving, they were running the ball consistently, but there was kind of that bend but not break with the defense. So they got 2 straight drives ended with turnovers inside the 20, right when inside their own 20, right when Fletcher was driving and looking like they were getting something together. So those are big plays by the defense. But both of those were 3-and-outs and a punt, 3-and-outs and a punt. So the defense is right back out there, and especially when you're playing a Fletcher team that wants to really pound you and really physically just kind of wear you down. They're hoping to wear you down by the third, fourth quarter. I mean, if you're like 3 plays, we just got a turnover, we're feeling good, and then 3 plays later, we're back on the field. It's kind of, it can be a little, you just wear on your defense. I thought the defense was playing really well, and then you look up and they're actually trailing. The team's trailing 14-7 going into halftime. It kind of felt like they should have been leading 14-7. So, I mean, it's tough on the defense when, you just want your offense to get a couple first downs here and there. Just every snap that you're on the sideline getting a breather it pays dividends in the end.
It did, and it seemed to help because obviously Drafts made a change right before the second half, and he brought in Bryce Frick, who ended the night with 15 of 23 for 194 yards, and he averaged 13. So, and his highlight was a 48-yard pass to Maddox Spencer. So I think you probably saw, maybe that just kind of gave the defense a little bit of a breather to keep them even in the game a little bit longer. And like I said, the loss was only 27-21. It was not like an out-of-hand game or anything.
Yeah, no, and I mean, good, and good for Bryce, to come in. Like, it's great to know, if the coaches to know that you have a quality backup, that can come in and you don't really miss much of a beat. You just keep going. So it's nice to know that you've got pretty much 2 options. I know the quarterback battle was tight throughout the off season. So they've got some nice quarterback depth. Mm-hmm. So when the offense maybe isn't clicking that day, or maybe the opposing defense schemes to kind of take away what this quarterback this certain quarterback does, it's good to know let's just try something else. Yes, like you said, it's not against you. It's just sometimes it's just not your night. Let's try something else, and maybe that'll work.
So now let's head down over to Ponte Vedra. We'll shoot down A1A here. Now, I think last week I was predicting that Ponte Vedra was going to put up at least 30 points, that their offense was clicking, and they actually put up 35, wasn't it? It was 35-0 over Middleburg. Yeah. And I think you had told me beforehand that when we were texting last night that it was like a running clock almost in the second half for the entire portion of it. Yeah. So the one number that kind of stuck out to me was Ben Burke. He is having a heck of a year, Anthony. I mean, what was it, like almost 200 yards, I think I wrote down? Yeah, his total offense was 200 with 186 in the air, 11 of 15. He's having a really good season back there.
Oh yeah, five touchdowns. Like every one of their touchdowns was through the air. So Burke, and not only 5 touchdown passing, which is obviously a career high for him, which is huge to do that in your senior year, but 4 of those were to different receivers. So he was not just focusing on one guy. I mean, he was spreading the ball around, making sure all 4 starting receivers caught a touchdown. Which, talking to him afterwards, he was just pumped about. Like it was almost like, oh yeah, I got 5 touchdowns, that's great. But he was more happy that his offensive line blocked perfectly for him, and he was able to toss the ball to find 4 different guys in the end zone to help his receivers out. So, which is obviously a great leadership quality that I know the Sharks are happy to have with him. But yeah, he's having a stellar year, and everyone always knows he can run the ball. He's kind of that dual threat, but now his passing is really coming along this senior season, and whatever he worked on in the offseason is definitely paying off.
So you led me into a question I wanted to ask you because I knew you were at this game and you were watching it. When I looked at the box score and I looked at the receivers, and you just mentioned how he threw the 5 touchdowns, but he hit 4 different receivers. The receiver list was long that he was hitting. I mean, it seems to me it's a little unusual to see a quarterback in high school. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything about high school quarterbacks and receivers, but the level of trust amazes me at any quarterback level is what I'm saying, that he's able to sit back there and hit multiple receivers in a game that you see. Usually you see the numbers like fluctuating towards one or the other or maybe 2. But when I looked at this, it was pretty much across the board equal. I mean, that's got to be something fun to watch, especially when you were out there.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a certain confidence, swagger, but for all the guys, the receivers and the quarterback, and he seems to, just be able to find them, and also play calling, to scheme different guys open and know what different guys do well. Some crossing over the middle, some going deep. He's got a huge tight end target in Landon Okla, who's a junior that's been looking, a bunch of colleges are looking at him. So he's a big target. He caught a corner route in the end zone where he just kind of outleaped the defender. He's got speed guys. They got a good mix in their receiving core, and Ben's, he's just finding them. I mean, and it shows from looking back to that first week against Bartram when the line didn't give him as much time. It shows like when you just give him enough time to survey, he can go through his progressions and find those talented guys.
You mentioned Landon Oakland. I'm just going to say this. I'm thinking he should change his Twitter handle or something to Find Landon, because you're right. He seems to be at different colleges every weekend. I mean, it's either he's in Clemson, University of South Florida, up in Maryland. I don't know, but yeah, it's so he definitely has a great receiving core. But also the other one I wanted to mention was Brian Case. What a workhorse! 107 yards is what I have him at. You look at the yardage in the air, 186 to 107. Now we're really seeing some effective balance here, especially with the accuracy with the receivers. Now Brian Case pulling the load on the ground. He's got to be happy with his performance as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, he'll obviously with all the touchdowns, all the points coming in the game coming through the air, he'll actually get overlooked this game. But he's another one of those just reliable forces each game. Like you almost expect him to have 100 yards or near 100 yards every single game. He gets his carries. He really is he's turned into their obvious number one. I mean, he's their workhorse who they can just lean on, and he's a pretty thick guy, so he can just hammer in there. And when he hits the hole, he's got some speed. I saw him just stiff arm a Middleburg defender in the hole last night. Just kept on going. He's fun to watch. It's great balance, like you said. There's just something that Tallahassee win a couple of weeks ago. It just seems like the offense, they found something, and now they come back home and they've just built on that after the bye week, and now this huge win, and it's going to be interesting to see them keep up that momentum.
It seems like after the Tallahassee, to me, it seems like that win was kind of a clicking moment. What I mean by that, they went over there, they're playing a really good team, and I think they came out with a boost of confidence, or, hey, we got this kind of thing. And they got some extra swagger to it, and it's really starting to come together for the Sharks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you can tell. You can tell that, they kind of knew, I think, that they had it in them, going into week one. But then week one, maybe, just didn't quite show it. But since then, they've been showing it. And like, when that you can do that, but then you actually start seeing the proof, what the coaches are saying, you're seeing the proof, all that work in the off season's paying off. Then it's just now you're backing up hope and confidence that you believe you have into confidence that you have with all the proof that's now resulting in these huge wins.
Now, when you look at the other side of the ball for the Sharks, and the offense was obviously clicking on all cylinders and giving them time to rest, I kind of had to do a double take when looking at Max Press for the stats, because I was like, 4 sacks. Joshua Kim had 2. Nick Greco had 1. And Cortez, I think, had 1. And then your guy, Joe Mahoney, he comes up with a fumble recovery. And then Aiden Van Cannon comes in with an interception. I mean, these guys, we've called them ball hawks before, but again, we talk about how Ben Burke is spread amongst the receivers.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I actually talked after the game with Zach Martis, their senior safety, and he was just all smiles. He was pumped up, slapping guys on the pads and all, just fired up after that, because shutouts are every defense's dream. It means everyone played well, like all levels of the defense. When you look up and there's that big goose egg sitting there next to on the scoreboard next to the opposing team's name, so. Just shutouts are defenses. That's that's their glory. So and to see them just get that complete team effort, it just shows how everyone can make plays. And sometimes it's your night, sometimes it's my night, but we're all going to get our nights and we're all going to do our thing. And it's fun to watch when the defense is flying around out there.
So this Friday, the Sharks are going to travel down to Menendez. It's going to be a 7:00 kickoff. Menendez, the Falcons are 1-3, and they just got routed by St. Augustine 44-6. I'm looking for a Sharks victory here. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I think so. It's gonna. I mean, I don't know if it'll be quite the shutout. I'm sure Menendez might get some points, but after they won their first game of the year, 34-8 against Ridgeview, but now they've lost 3 straight, including the last 2 weeks. They lost big to Beachside, and then now they've lost big to St. Aug, and they've only scored 13 points in the last 2 weeks combined. So all of a sudden, the offense that scored 34 in the first game of the year is kind of trying to figure it out and sputtering a little bit, and that's not similar to Middleburg. It's not what you want going into, like we just talked about, with the Sharks defense that flies around, is looking to hit you, and will take advantage of any type of crack in your offense that you show. And if that crack's pretty big, they're just going to, bust through all night and really create some trouble. So I think Menendez will have some trouble scoring. And then if Ponte Vedra just keeps up what they've been doing offensively, I could see it being, definitely another game that they could easily win by a couple scores.
Now, I'm sure Nice is going to be happy to be back home. They've been away for 2 weeks, Ridge Community and Fletcher, so they're going to be back at home against Orange Park. That's also a 7:00 kickoff in the Den. Orange Park comes in 2-2. They just beat Melbourne 28-13. I'm kind of I like Nice in this game. I think things are coming together for them. I know Fletcher was a hard-fought game. You just can't picture unless you're out there. Mm-hmm. I like Nice against Orange Park, but I think this is also going to be a tough game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout or anything like that. You might be looking at possibly another score like we had at Orange Park had last week, like a 28-13 kind of victory. You might be looking at something like a 21-14, but I do like Nice in this. I think the offense is going to come together. Drafts has got them fired up. I still think Elijah Luckett is just electric on special teams. So
yeah, I feel the same way, but again, it's going to be close. It's going to be another kind of one of those Fletcher type games. Orange Park has shown that they got a pretty good, scrappy team this year. They can score some points, and but they also give up some points at times. So it's kind of one of those things. I know they played Clay in a pretty big game a couple weeks ago and lost 42-41. So that shows they can keep up with you in a shootout. But they also can give up some points. So I mean, but it's going to be close. And the thing with Orange Park is that Nice will be happy to be home. Orange Park, this will be the 4th game in their first 5 games, all on the road. So they've only played once. They only have played once in their first 5 games at home. So they've been traveling everywhere, including just going down to Melbourne. And so another trip. No, it's not at all. And then so now they've got to travel again. It's a lot of road games for a high school football team. So their schedule is not very favorable for them. So for them to be 2-2 is actually pretty impressive for them. But I think Nice can take advantage of that. They're going on the road again, and Nice is back home. So, use those friendly confines of the Panther Den to, ignite your offense, ignite your defense.
Well, I'm assuming that you're going to be at Nice this weekend.
Yes.
Would that be correct? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I figured with Panthers, you can't really get down to Menendez in time for the second half, can you? No, I don't think you'll be able to make that.
yeah. If you leave at halftime, you might get down there for the fourth quarter, maybe. But it also might be in the middle of the fourth quarter. So you never know. So it's just better. It's just easier to just stay at one full game and cover and make sure you get the full insight. Plus, the Nice Orange Park game, like you said, is going to be a pretty instant classic game, possibly. So,
well, I got to tell everyone out there, be sure to visit the Ponte Vedra Recorder to read up on Anthony's articles from this past weekend. Also follow him on X, formerly known as. How long do we have to keep saying formerly known as Twitter? Do you know? I mean, when can we just start saying X? Right?
I don't know. I'm sure people will be saying it like that for 5 years from now.
I guess so. Yeah, it's like what? But anyway, ANTNY Rich, ANTNY Rich. And that you can follow him. You've got a ton of people out there following you, so there's a ton of information that you provide out there. You do a great job with it. Encourage everyone to go subscribe and follow you. Thanks again for joining us this weekend now, because we got a lot of football that we were dealing with this week. So
yeah, for sure.
All righty, Anthony, thank you very much, and we will talk to you next weekend.
Thanks. Good to be back.
And for Panther and Shark fans, don't forget, Ponte Vedra is going to be kicking off at 7 o'clock at Menendez. And also for Nice Panther fans, you will be playing at the Den this Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff against Orange Park. For Anthony Richards, I'm The Todd, and thank you for listening to the 32081 Scoreboard Show.
Thank you for listening to the 32081. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can join us for the next episode.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
Until next time, take care.